In today's show, we talk about the Blazers' loss to the Spurs in San Antonio and Shaedon Sharpe's return to the court. We've seen enough. Put him back in the starting lineup. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're going to talk about the Blazers' loss in San Antonio. We'll do our fastest recap in the West. We'll talk about Shaedon Sharpe, who made his season debut in beautiful San Antonio. And then we'll talk about the math problem. The Blazers have two math problems. One, there's only 48 minutes in a game, and they've got more guys than they can probably play on any given night who deserve to get out on the court at least a little bit. And also, they are working the math problem. The other math problem they have is actually a skill problem. Talk about why that math problem is more about talent than anything else to close the show. Let's do what we do. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose 118-105 to the San Antonio Spurs. They're down 33-27 after one. I thought, all things considered, the Blazers only being down 6 after the end of the first quarter was probably pretty good. Spurs shot 68% in the first quarter, including 4 of 7 from 3. This would be a theme. The Spurs had some hot shooting quarters. They got a big boost off their bench. But a team shoots 68% and they make a bunch of 3-pointers. They're on pace to make 16 on not that many attempts. It's like, uh-oh. But to only be down 6, Blazers been in a pretty good spot. They come back in the second quarter, cut the lead to 1, 56-55 heading into the break. But again, the Spurs in the third quarter. At the break, DeAndre Ayton before we get into it, DeAndre Ayton was rolling. First half, he had 17 points on 8 of 10 shooting, and it was really balanced. 9 in the first quarter, 8 in the second quarter. It's like when DA played, they were finding him. He did a nice job rolling. This is one of the strongest roll games of DeAndre Ayton's career, and you can tell because of the fact that he got a lot of lob dunks. Roll hard, get rewarded. Spurs came out high on a bunch of pick and rolls, and DeAndre Ayton found room in behind them. They let him operate in his comfort zone in the middle of the floor, but the best DeAndre Ayton was the guy who was making plays off as a roller to the rim. He got out in transition and got a lob dunk as well. DeAndre Ayton, as someone who crashes hard to the rim, is a better player than DeAndre Ayton who doesn't. I think that's pretty simple. He had 17 in the first half, and the Blazers would not have been in the game without how good DA had been in those first 2 quarters. Spurs come out, though, in the third and hit 8 of 14 threes. They just shot it really stinking well again. I don't know, to some extent, that's kind of the difference in the game, is that they shot it so darn well in the first and third quarters. But the Blazers weren't out of it. They're down 12 after 3. The Spurs, again, just such a hot shooting quarter. Blazers offense wasn't quite there in the third for their parts. DA didn't have another 8 points in him, just 2 in that third quarter. So they're down 12 after 3, 91-79. But the Blazers hang around with the bench on the court, playing against the Spurs bench, which was darn good. They cut it to 88-93 with just over 9 minutes left. It's a 5-point game. There's a chance for the Blazers to get into this one. Spurs take a timeout. They come out of a timeout and get 2 buckets, back-to-back threes. Peace. It's a double-digit game, and they just basically stiff-armed the Blazers down the stretch, and they cruise to a 118-105 victory. That's your fastest recap in the West. I want to talk about Shaedon Sharpe. That's what we're going to do here for the most part. I will say that Blazers don't win this game they aren't competitive in this game without Jeremy Grant. He'd had a couple inefficient games in a row. Tonight was a real measure of efficiency. Grant's 5 of 6 on 2s and hit 8 of 11 free throws. Only made 1 of 4 threes, but scored and got himself to the free throw line, made 2 pointers and got himself to the free throw line to finish with 21 points. I don't think Anthony Simons played particularly well in this game as a scorer, which is his his most important skill. More on that later in the show. But I think this was one of his better playmaking games of the year, maybe his best. A little bit of prisoner of the moment stuff watching this game, where I'm like best, worst. Where anything you see in the moment, you kind of move it to the top or the bottom of your list. But I do think this is one of Anfernee Simon's, if not Anfernee Simon's, best passing game of the season. I thought him and DA as pick and roll partners were really solid, and just like making smart passes continuously is a big part of his growth. Just like that's a big part of where he kind of needs to take steps forward. And I thought quietly, Deni Avdija had one of his better games. He didn't play that much because the Blazers messed with a good thing and they put Delano Banton in the first half. He didn't play in the first quarter, but he got in the second quarter and was a regular part of the rotation. He ended up playing 16 minutes, struggled 1 of 8. Soon as you mess with the Magic, they broke the spell and he stopped making all the shots. Or he was on an absolute heater and was due for this. I think it's the second one, but it could be the ancient Magic that they broke by playing him outside of the fourth quarter. But DB, that's Delano Banton, also played at kind of in the middle of the fourth when the Blazers went small briefly. They took Victor Wembanyama out of the game, and the Blazers tried to respond by going small, spread the Spurs out, put their creators on the court. So Anfernee Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, and Delano Banton put enough shot creators on the court to kind of score because they were having trouble just like generating offense at that point in the half. And it didn't really work. Like they didn't make any progress. The game just kind of fizzled. It wasn't like a deep negative. It didn't go, they gave up. Some of it is just like the Spurs made some shots during that stretch, but the Blazers offense didn't exactly sizzle in that moment. And like Deni didn't get back on the court till a little bit later. Him and DA both spent maybe a longer period than I would have guessed on the sidelines in that fourth quarter. I thought Deni played pretty well. It's 9, 7, and 5. So I'm not trying to tell you that Deni Avdija was the game. This was not the Deni game. The Deni game is still yet to arrive. But I think this was a step in the right direction, just as a playmaker and his physicality as a rebounder, and just I thought Deni was quietly really solid in this game. And just as a side note on Delano Banton, he's such you know it when you see it type of guy. Like I guess the first, his first touch the other night, he turned the ball over and then he went nuts for 20 in the quarter. But like, he's either going to make a couple, like he's a career below average shooter from basically every spot on the court. So like if he's on a heater, let him run. If not, I think maybe give him a slightly shorter rope. But he'd earned the right to play. Like I'm not mad that Delano Banton played by any means. I just think he's a total know it when you see it type of guy. More on the rotation in the second segment a little bit. But let's talk Shaedon Sharpe. His first bucket, a pull up late in the first quarter from 15 feet. Gets himself to the free throw line, gets right to the middle of the court, goes up smooth and easy. Basically, such a smooth, fluid move. There's no chance of anyone even bothering it. Cash. And then he just looked fine. The best thing I can say about Shaedon Sharpe is there was not even a hint of rust. If you didn't know that this was his season debut, if you didn't know that he had missed the first 8 games of the season, if you didn't know that he'd also, missed the preseason run, right? Like, you would have no idea. Because he had an easy 13-2 and 1 along with a block. He had a fun block at the end of the game. But like 13 on 6 of 9 shooting, didn't make his threes, didn't get to the foul line, but like one of his 3-pointers was a heave. So really he was 6 of 8 on just like normal shots, and the 2 threes he missed were off the dribble threes, and the 1 3 he made was a catch and shoot 3. You keep it simple from the outside. I think he becomes a better shooter. Obviously, developing an off the dribble game is a big part of it. But Shaedon Sharpe looked fine, and I'm going to go beyond that. I'm going to say Shaedon Sharpe looked straight up good. I'm going to say Shaedon Sharpe probably made one of the best passes I've ever seen him make in his career, and I'm going to go even further and say start him. There's no reason that Shaedon Sharpe comes off the bench ever again this season. Get my dude in the game. Let's talk more about Shaedon Sharpe and the realities of the rotation, because he was hooping. Let's talk about that in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you about Prize Picks. It's the most fun you can have playing daily fantasy sports. Prize Picks makes it super simple to get in on the action. And you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Easy to do and easy to win. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. You can join over 10 million users when you sign up today. Plus, Prize Picks puts its members first, so withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When you win, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide you even more value for your lineups. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Download that app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by the good folks over at FanDuel. I am recording this at the very, very end of Thursday night football, but the NFL season ain't done. We got more games on Sunday and Monday. And if you want to tackle the NFL action, you can right now on FanDuel because new customers get $150 if they win their first $5 bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your wagers. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 of bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook of the NFL. All right, let's talk Shaedon Sharpe. Dude's hooping. Sharpe gets his money's worth. First jump shot a midi, and then he does what the math nerds love. He only scores in a couple different ways, at the rim and takes shots from 3. He had a backdoor cut on a great read from Donovan Clingan. I can't wait to see more of that. He had another would-be backdoor dunk that he would have had, but Scoot Henderson bumbled the pass. Scoot got a little excited and couldn't get the pass inside to Shea, who was wide open and would have had an easy one. Sharpe, he had in the fourth quarter, he went out in transition and chased down a Scoot missed layup. Scoot gets out on the break and hard off the glass. Scoot Henderson's touch around the rim, still a little dicey, but it doesn't matter because Shaedon Sharpe chased it down, dunks home the bucket, and then my favorite play of his, actually the second favorite play, he gets the rock and attacks the rim, and Victor Wembanyama comes over, and Shaedon Sharpe gets to his right hand, moving towards his right, and puts it high off the glass over Big Vic, over Wemby's stretched out hand, which, like, standing reach, Victor Wembanyama's got to be gigantic, like 8.5 feet or something absurd, 9 feet. And he jumped. And so Sharpe had to put that ball up at like 14 feet in the air, kiss the glass, get it to go in. He scored in the mid-range, scored from 3, scored off cuts, scored off attacking the basket. What more do you freaking want? The whole arsenal was there. Let my man cook. Free Shaedon Sharpe. Here's the best thing about Shea. You were hoping that he wouldn't look rusty, right? And the thing about hurting your shoulder is different from hurting like a lower body injury or maybe even a core injury. It's like he can work out, right? Like he could, even when he spoke to the media a couple weeks ago, he said he wasn't throwing passes, but he was taking shots, right? Like he was staying in rhythm, and then you can run a little bit. Like you can keep your wind. So you can still have your touch. Obviously, like playing actual minutes is a little bit different. He played 20 minutes tonight, and I think he can ramp it up from there. They play a back-to-back, so we'll see. Maybe his body's like, whoa, an NBA game is a lot, and he needs to only play another 20 minutes tomorrow night in Minnesota. Play your first basketball game of the season in Texas, get on a plane and fly to Minnesota. That's a trek. That's a trek. I guess it's a really nice plane and a really nice hotel, but still, that's a trek. In any case, Shaedon had the whole arsenal working, no rust in maybe like a believable way because of how the injury worked, but also like he's just a young guy still trying to figure out what his level can be on a consistent basis. And I thought tonight what we saw was like, yeah, this dude can hoop. This dude can hoop. I don't know what his ceiling will be, right? And I can't speak to consistency. It's not that Shaedon Sharpe isn't good. It's that Shaedon Sharpe needs to be good for like 65 games in a row. And then you can feel comfortable about like, yeah, this dude's going to be good forever. Like it's not the peaks with him. It's the consistent peaks with him. Like he has the talent. It's how often can he do it? And tonight, he reminded you, I got the talent. Don't worry about it. Night one, huge check. My favorite play from the Shaedon Sharpe experience. He's 3 of 3 in the fourth quarter. He might have only made 2 shots at this point, but I believe he's 3 of 3 in the fourth quarter from my notes. And Toumani Camara comes and sets a screen. They're playing with this smaller, weird small ball lineup with Delano Banton on the court, but and like Toumani Camara and Jeremy Grant as like your bigs effectively. And Toumani comes and sets a screen, but he kind of just slips it because he sees that the defense is going to give a little bit of attention and kind of step above the level of the screen or at the level of the screen. And as soon as he slips, Shaedon looks off ball, like he looks to the opposite wing, and then when Toumani gets himself into the paint, like 2 steps, Shaedon Sharpe whips like a quick no looks, maybe look away is a more accurate pass, but just an absolute dime off a live dribble dime through 2 defenders to Toumani Camara, who's kind of fading a slip screen in traffic and lays it in. That's a dime. That is a heck of a pass. That's I don't know that I've seen him do that. I think that's the best pass I've ever seen Shaedon Sharpe throw. That was awesome. That got me excited because if he can make plays, like he can score in a bunch of different ways, right? But if he can be a playmaker on top of that, that's the next layer of the onion that makes you a really excellent player. If you're watching on YouTube, my layer of the onion, I actually raised my hand above my head as if layers of onion go up. I don't think that's how onions work. If you're watching and if you're listening on audio, just know that I often don't know how onions work, and I'll act them out right here on the video. Shea was good. Shea was good. Put him in the starting lineup. I know the Blazers have an identity, right? They're big and they're physical and they're tough to play against and they keep you out of the paint. They're among the best teams in the league at preventing shots at the rim. Their size on the wing has been their sort of the thing that they can point to and say, this is what we are every night. Who cares? Put him in the starting lineup. Put him in the starting lineup. They're so desperate for shot creators and shot makers in that starting group and on all the groups, to be honest, every group. But like, start Shaedon Sharpe. Start him. Who to start him over? Like, quite frankly, Toumani has been better than Denny to begin the season because that's the 2 wings you're choosing between. It's not going to be Jeremy Grant. Sorry, guys. It's just not. So I think it makes more sense to keep Denny in the starting lineup, to have more playmaker types and maximize your versatility and say, this is probably our best offensive group period that we can put on the floor. But I don't know, like, I guess fair's got nothing to do with it. Deserve got nothing to do with it. So like, yeah, I think you move Toumani to the bench role and you start Shaedon Sharpe along with Denny and JG and DeAndre and obviously Anthony Simon's going to start while he's here. And if he signs a new contract and he's here for another 6 seasons, then he'll probably be starting all those too because that's how it works. Fortunately, unfortunately, or just reality-wise. But it's time. We don't need to see more. Like maybe physically, they do need to bring Shaedon Sharpe off the bench. Like I'm not an NBA coach. I don't know how. And I certainly don't have access to the medical staff telling me kind of the best way to handle Sharpe's minutes and all of those things. But for me, I've seen enough. Put him in the starting lineup. He played 20 minutes and 11 seconds according to the official NBA box score. That's fine. I've seen it. He's ready to go. Real quick on the rotation stuff. Chauncey played 9.5 guys. I mentioned that he's been a 9 or 9.5 rotation player in his Blazers tenure. He's comfortable with 9 guys. I personally think 9 is the right number to play in the league because then everybody who gets to play plays real minutes. Like you get to like. You don't have a really short shift where it's like, I missed 2 shots. I'm not going to play again. But Ryan Rupert played in the first half, and he did not come in the second half until garbage time. The final minute and 15 seconds was Blazers unloaded the bench. Minute and 18 seconds, according to the box score. But Rupert played in the first half, but not the second. So they went 10 deep in the first half and 9 deep in the second half. That is what I have called 9.5. That's what Chauncey's comfortable with. If you're going to play Delano Banton, it gets hard to play Ryan Rupert. I think DB earned that shot tonight to play over him. I don't know if in the future you go that way. I think in the future, if you're just talking about franchise investment, you play Rupert over DB. But Banton brings something just with his offensive creation that the Blazers might need. But I think, Denny only played 25 minutes. Scoot's playing under 21 minutes. Shaedon Sharpe didn't play, played half the game. This is the reality of this roster when they're at Robert Williams. I should mention this. Robert Williams, healthy again, DNP/CD, did not play coach's decision. Will we see him on Friday nights in Minnesota? Hopefully. I'd love to see him, but he only adds to the confusion, right? Because Donovan Clingan didn't even hit the 12-minute mark in this game. Because when they're trying to win and they're in a close game, Tumani's playing 35 minutes. Jeremy Grant's playing 36. You're getting 33 from Anthony Simons. Chauncey's leaning on the guys he's comfortable with, and that means there's a minute or two squeeze from everyone on down the roster. And obviously, Shaedon Sharpe adds to the squeeze. It's just the reality of the team. It's the reality of the situation. Sharpe should start and then figure out for where I'm at with this Blazers team. It's they're not trying to win. They're not they lost to the Spurs tonight. They're clearly the Spurs without Devin Vassell and without Jeremy Sohan, right? This isn't even the full strength Spurs. So the Blazers are going to scuffle this year. They're going to be a team that's pesky but not hyper talented. So just play the young players that you have future investment for, and prioritize that. Really prioritize that. I don't think that's what the coach is comfortable with. And Joe Crone has said a bunch of times in public that he would never kind of meddle with Chauncey's rotations. I would be in favor of meddling. I would meddle. Play the young guys and start Shaedon Sharpe. I talked about that math problem. There's only so many minutes. It's a 48-minute game, and playing 10, 11 guys is really hard. Playing 9 is the right number. Choosing which 9 each night means someone's left out, if not several someone's, two someone's. And that gets tricky, right? Chris Murray didn't play in this game, and he's out of the rotation very clearly. So it'll be a challenge. That's one unavoidable math challenge. The other unavoidable math challenge for the Blazers is not actually math at all. It's a skill issue. Let's talk about where they are as a team that is trying to generate points and why I think this is a math problem that the Spurs exposed that the Blazers can't solve because it's actually a talent issue. Join me in that third segment and we'll talk all about it. First, though, I want to tell you about Skims underwear. In fact, the underwear that I like rocking. I would tell you I'm rocking them right now, but that's a lie. But I was wearing them yesterday when I was recording the show. Skims makes underwear for men. You might have not known that Skims makes underwear for men, but they do. And here's the thing. They're just really dang comfortable. Here's the biggest compliment I can pay to Skims. You'll never notice them. You'll never notice them because they're so dang comfortable. I'm more of the stretch blend kind. They got cotton options, but I'm rocking the stretchiness. And I'm just going about my business, not thinking about what I'm wearing under my jeans because I'm taking care of business. I'm living my life. I got a day job and a baby and a podcast. So I'm doing what I need to do and not having to worry about the essentials in life. That's what Skims does. They make really comfortable underwear that take the questions about where am I going to find good underwear away from you, because the answer is simple. You shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select my show, Locked On Blazers, in the drop-down menu that follows. Let them know Locked On Blazers sent you there. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever, also available at skims.com. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. So I mentioned the Blazers have the rotation is a math problem. There's only so many minutes and there's some guys. There's also a math problem that the Spurs exposed tonight. The Spurs hit 16 3-pointers. The Blazers hit 9. That's plus 21 from the 3-point line. That's a 21-point advantage from beyond the arc, and the Spurs won this game by 13. That's math. I've mentioned that the Blazers, their path to being competitive has typically this season be making 14 or more threes and shooting 40% or more from the 3-point line. It's not perfect. They lost a game when they did exactly that, but it is increasingly a league decided by shot making. Here's the thing. The NBA has always been a league decided by shot making. It's just now every team in the dang league takes 43 pointers a night. To wit, the Spurs took 39. The Blazers took 32. I think the bigger number is that the Blazers took 7 fewer threes. The volume was a challenge. You can't make the Spurs made 7 more threes. They also attempted 7 more threes. Obviously, the Blazers aren't going to go 7 for 7, but it's hard to stay in the hunt if you are shooting fewer. Or is it? Tom Ziller, who writes the Good Morning Basketball podcast, or he doesn't write the podcast, he writes the newsletter. Good Morning, Less Basketball. Tom's been writing about the NBA for 15 years. I've probably been reading Tom for 14 and a half of those. But he pointed out in his in one of his stories this week, he writes 5 days a week right into your inbox if you want to subscribe. That the Kings were a top 5 offense in the NBA despite not being a team that launches from 3, that they're doing it a different way even in this era. And that got me thinking, what the heck are the Kings doing? I know they added DeMar DeRozan. He is just a different beast. He plays slow. He lives in the mid-range and at the free throw line. He doesn't turn the ball over and he gets shots up. It is a very simple formula. Take a bunch of shots you're going to make. Don't give away possessions. Get a ton of free throws. And here's how the Kings have a top 5 offense in the league. They're 29th in the league in rim attempts. They're 23rd in the league in 3-point attempts. They don't get to the rim. They're in the bottom third of the league, bottom eight in the league in taking threes. They're not a high volume 3-point shooting team. They don't make up for it with layups. But they're 8th in turnovers. So one of the best teams in the league at not coughing the ball up, and they're 4th in free throw rate. They take the shots they can make. They get the easy ones at the free throw line, and that's how they have a top 5 offense. It is truly every team is going one way, and Sacramento, who was a team that played incredibly a couple years ago when they made the playoffs, played incredibly fast and bombed away from 3. Things done change because the personnel changed. So I looked on Cleaning the Glass, and Cleaning the Glass, the indispensable stats website from Ben Falk, has a stat called location effective field goal percentage. And what it suggests is if your team shot league average from the place that you take your shots from, what would your team rank in effective field goal percentage? So basically it says, like, are you generating high efficiency shots that if just, if you hit them at the league average mark, how often would they go in and then, ranked, relative to everyone else's shot location and by the league average. The Kings are last in location effective field goal percentage, last 30th. If other teams try to do what they do, they would be horrendous. They would have the worst offense in the league because they don't get layups. They don't shoot a ton of threes. They live in the mid-range. They play relatively slow, and they get to the free throw line. But not like the most in the league by a long shot. Top 5 in the league. They don't turn the ball over a ton, and they're top 5 in the league in free throw rate. This is a tough formula to follow. So if the Kings can do this wild dark magic as the top 5 offense in the league, well, how are the Blazers freaking 26-0? And how are they one of the bottom 6 teams in the league on offense? But it's a little bit of magic, little bit of magic here. Bottom 5, I guess, on offense. I'm bad at math. I guess I'm bad at counting backwards. I'm okay at math. Well, how about this? The Blazers get to the rim a ton. 2nd in rim attempts in the league, according to Cleaning the Glass. But they're right there with the Kings, 24th in 3-point rate. So while the Kings never get to the rim and don't shoot many threes, the Blazers live at the rim and don't shoot many threes. But the Blazers turn the ball over a lot. They're 20th, and they don't get to the free throw line very often. They're 21st. Their magic is that they live at the rim. They get to the rim. They are a team that lives in the paint on offense, and they're teams that keeps you out of the paint on defense. They have actually a pretty good formula if you just look at the math. In fact, by location effective field goal percentage, if the Blazers were to shoot the league average from the places they take shots from, they would have the second highest effective field goal percentage in the league. The problem is the dudes they have shooting them can't make them, and they're 29th in the league in effective field goal percentage according to Clean the Glass. Effective field goal percentage is counting that 3-pointers are worth 50% more than 2-pointers. It's a normalized field goal percentage for accounting for threes. The Blazers have the second highest rim frequency shot attempts in the league. Second highest frequency of shot attempts at the rim in the league. They're 16th in corner threes. So they're right in the middle of the pack of corner threes. Even though they're like, a little bit lower and above the break threes, but they're taken right at league average in, 16th, right around league average in corner threes. They live at the rim, second most attempts. Those are the easiest shots and the most valuable shots, right? Layups, dunks, and threes from the short corners, the most valuable shots in the league. And if the Blazers just made their shots at the league average, they would have the second best effective field goal percentage in the NBA. The math is not really a problem for them. It's a talent issue. This isn't to say that the Blazers can solve this. I'm just watching this team and thinking like the challenge for them all year is not going to be generating the looks they want. Scoot Anderson's getting himself to the rim whenever he wants. That is a pretty promising sign. When he gets to the rim, the signs are less promising. I think DA has lived in the paint. I think Jeremy Grant has briefly cameoed as the best three-point shooter in the league. Tumani Kamara has, despite a rough shooting night tonight, has taken steps, as an offensive player. They are a good offensive rebounding team. They've run a little bit more than they have in the past. But I don't think you can overcome some of the shooting woes and some of probably the skill at finishing woes. Anfernee Simons is never going to be a high-level finisher. Denny Avdia has been a high-level finisher in his career, but has basically forgotten how to make layups in a Trailblazers uniform. Scoot Anderson is good at getting there, bad at staying there with layups and things like of that nature, dunk attempts. I think this math issue is a talent problem. I think when I watch this team, I think their process isn't that bad. Sometimes their offense is stagnant and you can see it, and sometimes it's just so obvious, but I think a lot of what the Blazers are trying to do makes sense for the skills that they have. They're not launching a ton of threes because they don't have a ton of three-point shooters. They're living at the rim because they want to be aggressive and they want to get and they want to be a team that that plays physical with Tumani and Denny on the wings and Jeremy Grant, who's a decent foul drawer, if not a highly physical player. But I think the sort of juxtaposition of the Kings, right? They take the worst shots in the league by effective field goal percentage, but their talent wins out because they're doing something that other teams couldn't duplicate. The other side of the coin is the Blazers, is that they're taking the types of shots that every team would like to generate, and their talent wins out, meaning that they just can't finish them at a rate that can get them where they want to go. They're going to be a team that struggles on offense all year, but I maintain that their process isn't horrendous. And Shaedon Sharpe can only help. I put him in the starting lineup, let him go. Let's see it. The Blazers play on Friday evening against the Minnesota Thunder. Probably the Timberwolves. I believe that team's called the Timberwolves. They play against the T-Wolves, who are also coming off a back-to-back and traveling. They were in Chicago tonight. They will fly a much shorter trip. But they'll fly back home to meet the Blazers, who are traveling from beautiful San Antonio. Shout out to Kevin Calabro for the final game of the road trip for the Blazers, and the Blazers back in town Sunday evening against the Memphis Grizzlies. So the next time you hear my voice, two things: one, the Blazers will have played 2 games. We'll talk about both of them, and 2, hopefully Shaedon Sharpe will be a starter in the NBA because it is time. That is going to do it for today's program. Tell your friends about the show. Get it wherever you get podcasts. It's also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.